Welcome to another series of Compensation Matters. I'm your host, Nilfar Dotfar, and this time we're focusing on another crucial part of your go to market strategies, your sales territory and quotas, all the challenges that you face with them, as well as solutions and best practices. To help us explore this topic, I am joined by Omid Mersat, Innovine's managing partner. Hi, Omid. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Nilufar. Thank you for having me. Um, my name is Omid Merzat, managing partner at Innovine. I oversee our technology and client delivery practice. For the past 2 decades, I've enjoyed helping a variety of businesses achieve operational efficiencies with the help of technology and data insights. At my core, I simply love problem solving. I'm very passionate about my line of work and helping customers in specific bridge that gap between their technology and business needs. So happy to be here with you today and discuss a little bit more about sales territory planning.
Awesome. Thank you. So, in our previous episodes, we discussed how to improve incentive compensation management, which is a critical part of go to market and revenue generating efforts. But there's another piece to this puzzle, and that's sales territory and quotas. In theory, they seem very simple. We all know that we need to plan and allocate them in a way that they're fair to everyone, they're balanced, and they align with the business objectives. But in practice, it's another story. A lot of organizations often struggle with finding that balance where the performance is at a peak and sales reps are happy and the business is meeting all of its targets. In fact, a report by Alexander Group shows that less than half of sales reps have met their quotas every year since 2017.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting statistic, Nilufar, and one in that, in my opinion, just requires more consideration from the modern sales organization. Quotas are directly tied to a company's bottom line. They're tied to an employee's compensation. But they also impact their motivation and behavior. So, in many respects, imbalanced quotas can have a material impact to the organization, their sales reps, and the strategy that they deploy.
So, in context of planning and territory and quota, I've learned that unoptimized territory and quotas can cost between 2 to 5% of revenue for a company, and that's a big number. I think before getting into the solutions and how we can solve it, it's better to understand the root of the problem and why this inefficiencies happen. So, could you please help us to identify some of those reasons?
Yeah, certainly, Nilufar. So, any organization will face different obstacles and challenges at different times in their maturity phase. And so we're going to have to somehow categorize these together. If I were to ask you, Nilufar, what do you think would be sort of the top three items that jump to your head?
Mhm. For me, I think one of the big ones is mergers. So when two completely different company with their own processes and their own teams, they need to combine everything. Um, I think a lot of challenges come out of that. And then expansion would be the next one, which can have different aspects to it. It can mean adding a new line of product or adding new territories. And as the last one, as the third one, I would say data quality and integration issues. I think that's a universal problem that everyone faces. And we actually talked about it in our episode 3 when we were discussing best practices for designing incentive compensation plans.
Yeah, no, one great list, great starter. So in our practice, we essentially look at the challenges that a typical organization might sort of face in 10 categories, and you've touched on a couple of them. Mergers and acquisitions, definitely. That's one of the top and one that most organizations will face at any point in their life cycle. Expansion you mentioned, and yeah, we do look at expansion in sort of two different categories. There is territorial expansion, in which an organization might want to sort of move globally from their more local current position. And then the other part to this would be product diversification or product expansion, and sort of introducing new products or product lines into existing markets. So that's three. Data quality problems and systems integrations, yeah, four. But also look at some of the other sort of outliers, I would say. Rapid market changes, that's five. Regulatory changes, six. Cyclical markets, seven. If you've got existing unbalanced territories, that's eight. You've got limited sales resources to go ahead, furnish your sales strategy, that's nine. And then the last one, an organization that typically has high turnover in their sales teams ultimately faces a completely different set of challenges. And here, ultimately, the customer, the one really feeling dismayed.
Well, that's a long list to consider. I think it will help our audience if we discuss a few of them in more details. And actually, as we were going through the list, uh, I noticed that some of them impact some of the industries more than others. So, for example, for merger and acquisition, I think a lot of manufacturing companies deal with that. Um, let's say we have a manufacturer that has thousands of sales reps, they have international territories, and now they want to merge or acquire uh, a new company. So, what kind of challenges, what kind of problems do you think they should prepare for?
Indeed, this is a big one. Ultimately, I think we've got a few clients for whom we've supported that were facing this kind of struggle. Mergers and acquisition, basic scenario. Two organizations are coming together. Each one of them has their own sales force and sales structures. Um, Challenge one, I would say, overlaps in sales territories. Sales reps from both organizations or both entities may have overlapping territories, and this oftentimes leads to confusion and internal competition. Adjustments to quota are definitely warranted because you now have to go ahead and sort of plan for the combined market potential of the two entities together. And then the last one I would sort of also touch base on might be cultural integration between the two entities. You've got different sales structures, you've got different processes that require a bit of harmonization. And if you don't do that, then you impact employee morale and employee productivity. The clear bottom line impact of the organization is that without careful planning, the merged entity may experience customer dissatisfaction due to your conflicting sales approaches. And sales reps can be demotivated if they perceive the new system or their new territories as unfair. And so, good amount of planning ultimately would be required in M&A activities.
How about regulatory and compliance issues? You know, every day, every year, there are new laws, regulations, and they are more frequent in some of the industries like pharmaceutical or financial industry. So, like, for example, for a bank, there's no room for them to not follow those new regulations. It is too risky, too costly to not implement and follow those new type of laws and regulations. But it also means that they need to change some of um, the way that they're working in their organizations and some part of their processes. What do you think is the impact on their sales, territory, and quota planning?
Yeah, I think you've hit the bullet straight one on this one. The banking sector and the pharmaceutical sector is more prone to regulatory changes. And Nilofer, it can swing ultimately in both ends. So, you might ultimately have regulatory changes that benefit the organization as well. So, geographic restrictions or geographic openings is essentially something to consider. A certain region might become off limit or might become available to your organization. And so, how do you go ahead and integrate that into your territory planning and sales quota adjustment considerations? Because it's now either off limits or it's available to you. And so, you've got to go ahead and have the right people on there to size that market for you. And then the other part would be um, training requirements. I'm sort of going to go ahead and generalize that anything along the lines of training. Typically, with regulatory changes, especially on the banking side and pharmaceutical side, sales teams must be educated on new compliance obligations that the organization must heed to. And non-compliance of these regulations oftentimes can lead to penalties and reputational damage for the organization. And so, on the one end, you need to go ahead and adjust your territories and sales planning efforts to either address the limited territory or new territories that are available to you. But on the other end, you got to go ahead and address the regulatory compliance requirements that your sales force needs to go ahead and work with in order to drive the bottom line sales to the business.
Yeah, makes sense. As the final item to discuss, I wanted to go back to the data quality issues because I think that's something that everyone's kind of dealing with. Um, how do you think outdated or incomplete data um, can affect territory and quota planning and management? What is the impact on the broader organization?
I think this one's not a very complex one to discuss, but an organization that relies on outdated or incomplete customer data for their territory planning or quota planning activities is sort of setting themselves up for failure. Um, Challenge inaccurate territory design. You might have territories that are either too small or too large that are completely based on incorrect assumptions about customer locations or customer potential. With incorrect territories, you can also be in a situation where you've got incorrect quota allocations. And so sales targets are completely not reflecting the true market potential that the organization should sort of go after. And the combination of these two together sort of leads to a situation where your sales efforts are misdirected, time is wasted, and resources are ultimately wasted.
Okay, so Omid, I think that was a good overview of some of the challenges organizations should look out for. But of course, they go beyond the examples we discussed today. And to our audience, if you have any questions, please reach out. And if any of these uh, challenges or examples resonated with you and you're looking for solutions, don't miss out our next episode. Omid, could you please give us a sneak peek of what everyone can expect next time?
Certainly, Nilufar. So, in episode one, we wanted to have a conversation around the problems and challenges that the organization might face. In our next episode, we'd like to go ahead and have a conversation around some solutions and functionalities that organizations can expect from technology available today to address these problems. And then in episode three, we'll have a conversation around success factors and best practices on how you can ultimately onboard such types of solutions.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, as Omid mentioned, next time we will discuss some of the tools and solutions. And actually, research shows that companies who adopt automation, unify their processes, and leverage high quality and real time data, they can see an uplift of 4 to 10% in their revenue. And we will discuss how you can achieve that next time. Thank you so much, Omid, for joining us today and sharing your insights. It was very helpful.
Not a problem at all, Nidafar. Thank you very much for having me.
And to everyone who were watching today, thank you for tuning in. See you next time.